How shall I stand before thee but in silence? Not with many words, not with fresh theories, not with the clatter of mind trying to make God perform, but in the hush where the still small voice is heard. We have not assembled to collect new ideas about God. Talking about God will not produce the fruits of God. We have come to enter the felt atmosphere of the presence, for God must be felt. God must be realized. God must become an experience. And that experience begins, always, out of the silence. There is a doorway before us, and it is already open. The kingdom of God is within you. Not somewhere in tomorrow, not behind a ritual, not available to the favored, but here, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. The paradox of this day is this: the day will not change because outer conditions bend to your will. The day changes because you yield your will to the presence within. Not by might, not by mental power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. The single promise I set before you is simple. One inward movement, from personal striving to the felt awareness of the presence, and the day stops fighting you. One with God is a majority. Silence is not passivity. Silence is activity, the very channel of divine action. Out of the silence, the presence and the power of God comes, not as a storm of words, not as a fever of emotions, but as that quiet certainty which governs appearances without wrestling with them. In that inner quietude, the invisible governs the visible. Grace undertakes what thought cannot plan and will cannot enforce. When we are still, we are not empty. We are yielded to the infinite invisible that performs all things for us. Let us make our contact now. Not to beg, not to outline, not even to seek signs, but to acknowledge. Father within, I listen. Keep this inner ear open. For the next 10 or 20 seconds, let us be still. No petitions, no self-talk. Only the soft consent of, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth." Be still. Do you feel the shift? Not as fireworks, but as a change in atmosphere, a lessening of strain. Not that God has come, for God does not come or go. Presence is omnipresence. It is we who have turned, who have ceased looking out and have begun to behold within. In that moment, the day is met, not with argument, but with awareness. Not with plans, but with peace. Not with reaction, but with recognition. So we begin. As Emmanuel, as Tao, as the light called Christ by Jesus, as the wisdom known to Buddha and Shankara, the One is here. We stand before this day in silence, not to make the door open, but to let the already open door receive us. Keep this ear open. Keep this heart yielded, and let the secret governance of grace commence its quiet work. If you will watch the first 5 minutes of a common morning, you will see why the day feels like a wall. We rise, and, almost without noticing, we reach for the outer rim. The headlines to tell us what the world is, the calendar to tell us who we must be, the body's sensations to forecast our strength, the memory to rehearse yesterday's bruises, the imagination to predict tomorrow's wins. We take counsel of appearances, as if appearances were the authority. We listen to the world's voice before we have listened for the still, small voice. And then we wonder why the world speaks loudly all day. This is the habit of living from the circumference. At the rim of the wheel, every unevenness is a jolt. At the center, there is calm. When we plant our feet in what eyes report and newspapers suggest, in what the market threatens and opinions demand, we have stepped away from the secret place, and the world, innocent of our mistake, whirls us about. If the kingdom of God is within you, why do you begin the day in the vestibule of effects? Why seek light from the lamps of yesterday when the sun rises in your own midst? He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High is a promise, not to those who consult the street corner of appearances, but to those who abide in the inner court. Then, having taken our orders from without, we compound the strain by adding mental government. Plans stacked upon plans, contingencies rehearsed, speeches composed, conflicts pre-fought, outcomes choreographed. We keep a private weather bureau in the head, forever alert to storm or drought, and we call it prudence. But you know, and I know, it is fear wearing the mask of wisdom. Take no thought for your life is not an invitation to carelessness. It is a direction to exchange mental might for spiritual rest. Not by might, not by mental power, but by my spirit. The Father within, He doeth the works. And so the hidden fatigue of modern days is not, in truth, the sum of errands and labors. It is the strain of authorship, the unholy burden of believing, I must make life be life. Notice the exhaustion that arrives before noon, the tight jaw, the shallow breath, the eyes already dim. This is not honest tiredness from work well done. It is the ache of a self-appointed creator carrying a cosmos on narrow shoulders. The I that plots, defends, persuades, and performs drags a cart of illusions up the hill and calls that pilgrimage. The correction is not to redouble our managing, not to hunt better appearances, not to varnish the outer picture, not to fix the day, but to abide in that which is already whole. The wheel stops flinging us the instant we leave the rim and return to the hub. We begin by refusing to let appearances have first word or last. We consent to let presence be substance, cause, law, and government. Then the day ceases to fight, not because we have conquered it, but because we are no longer contending with shadows. You do not fight darkness, you turn on light. Keep this ear open. The light is within. The moment we remember where the government is, the infinite invisible at the center, the clamor at the edge loses its authority, and a quiet order begins to be felt. What then is this inward movement that changes the day from resistance to rest? It is simpler than religion has made it, and more living than metaphysics has described it. It is a turning of attention, just that, from the chatter of the head to the heart of still awareness. Not from intelligence to ignorance, but from mental commentary to conscious oneness. Not thinking about God, but feeling the presence. Not words, but realization. In that instant, we are no longer looking out to measure and manage. We are inwardly consenting to be lived. The Father within, He doeth the works, and we cease taking His work out of His hands. Do not imagine that this is a trance, a mood, a glow to be manufactured, or a creed to be adopted. It is not a belief system, and it is not a technique of suggestion. It is recognition. I am in God, and God is the life of me. It is remembrance. The kingdom is within. It is release, not by might, not by mental power, but by my spirit. It is as plain as relaxing the grip of thought and acknowledging the presence already present, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. One with God is a majority. How shall you know when the shift has occurred? Not by fireworks, not by voices, not by visions, but by a gentling of the atmosphere within. The pulse of hurry loosens. The shoulders drop of themselves. The breath goes down and not merely across. Problems that a moment ago demanded speeches and defense now stand without subpoena. You feel no need to argue a case before a silent judge who has already ruled grace. There is a quieting, a soft current under the surface. Call it peace, call it being carried, that takes the weight from your pushing. You live, yet not you. The Christ life, the infinite invisible, lives as you, and that is the whole government of the day. This is not for a sanctuary hour alone. It is available on a pavement, in a kitchen, between the ringing of one telephone and the next. Eyes open or closed, hands busy or folded, the movement is the same. Turn from the commentary to the presence. Turn from the plan to the presence. Turn from the fear to the presence. Not to get God to come, but to stop pretending he was absent. Not to make grace work, but to yield until grace is what is working. And here is the operating principle by which this becomes practical. When consciousness is stayed on God, on the felt isness of the presence, grace governs the sequence of your moments. Thought is no longer at the helm. Spirit is. Words cease their clatter. The still, small voice is heard, sometimes as silence itself, sometimes as an impelling rightness that needs no argument. From that place, decisions make themselves because you have stopped manufacturing them and started witnessing them. This, beloved, is the one shift. Keep this ear open. Turn and be turned. Yield and be carried. Now hear this, and let it rest upon you. There are not two minds at work in your day, a frightened personal mind, and somewhere else a divine mind to be begged. There is one mind. God is the only mind. In that mind you live and move and have being. The thoughts that race, the fears that clamor, the pictures that parade as authority are not second minds competing with God. They are the flutter at the rim when we have forgotten the hub. When consciousness returns to its center, to the felt presence, those pictures are not overthrown by combat. They are released by recognition. Not two powers, one power. Not two laws, one law. Not two minds, one mind. In practice, this means we do not take the bait of appearances and fight them as realities. Not resisting fear, but recognizing the presence before which fear is not. Not arguing with lack, but abiding in the sufficiency of the infinite invisible. Not wrestling the body into compliance, but resting in the life of God as the life of this very form. You do not stand before a shadow and box it. You turn to the light, and the shadow explains itself. The moment you grant a problem power, you enthrone it, and then must serve it. The moment you behold it as appearance only, you are free to drop it and abide. Let me give you a picture you can carry. Place the basket of today before the infinite. Into it, put the envelopes with their due dates, the report with its red marks, the ache that calls itself yours, the conversation waiting with its edge. Label after label, place them in the basket. Then close your eyes and ask, what, in truth, is in this basket? I tell you what is there. God. Not a God to come and change these, but the one presence constituting all true being. The labels are the paper wrappings of sense. The content is God. When you look into the basket as appearance, you see need. When you look into it as reality, you see God, and the need yields to the law of its source. Now, you will say, am I to pretend the rent is not due, the pain not sharp, the child not troubled? No, beloved. We do not deny human need. We deny its tyranny as final authority. We deny that there is a second power to oppose God. We move about our duties. We keep our appointments. We answer the telephone. But we do so from the secret place, where governance is grace. In that posture, steps appear naturally. Words are given. Supply unfolds. Not because we have conquered conditions, but because we have ceased to crown them. Let this be your stance. When an appearance rises, do not brace to battle. Be still and turn. Listen. Acknowledge the one mind present as your very awareness, the one life animating, the one law operating. In that acknowledgement, the claim that shouted, "I am law," falls silent. The appearance loses its authority because you have refused to loan it yours. Keep this ear open. Drop the shadow. Abide the light. When the appearance has been dropped and the inner consent is given, a different government takes its seat. Not a louder will, but a subtler law. It works silently, secretly, unseen, unheard. The Father within, He doeth the works. The Christ performs all things for us, not by might, not by mental power, but by my Spirit. And at once the day that was pushing against you is found to be moving you along, as the current carries the swimmer who stops thrashing. Notice the sequence, for it is always presence first, and only then proceeding. Presence first, then the tongue that was armed becomes a servant of kindness. Presence first, then decisions that were a maze become a straight path. Presence first, then reactions that were hot are found to be cool, and efficiency rises without a whip. Out of that order there comes wisdom, direction, restraint. Wisdom to see the essence, direction for the next right step, restraint to keep silent where silence is the speech of God. And with it appear the fruits, harmony in the body, order in the affairs, kindness in the relationships. Not manufactured, but revealed. Let me show you how this walks. A tense conversation awaits you. History, injury, dread. The old way is to rehearse speeches and fortify the self. The new way is to stand at the door and turn, even for half a minute. Father within, I listen. Keep this ear open. You enter not as a private advocate, but as a transparency through which presence can witness itself. You will find that the tone softens before the words are formed, that you say less and mean more, that the needed sentence arrives without struggle, and that what seemed like an enemy dissolves into a human heart relieved to be met from the secret place. Not that every issue evaporates in a breath, but that the war in you is over, and therefore the war in the room has no air to breathe. Or the delay. The train canceled, the meeting stalled, the order lost. Formerly, the stomach tightens, the clock becomes an idol, and we pay with peace for minutes that cannot be purchased. Now the same delay is received within the pause of God. You do not outline rescue, you abide. In that abiding, protection that cannot be diagrammed reveals itself. An accident avoided, a connection made that would have been missed, a conversation born in the waiting that becomes the provision for tomorrow. He shall give his angels charge over thee. Call them timing, call them right encounters. It is the same grace. And labor, an overloaded day that once demanded strain. From presence you begin, and you discover that tasks line up and walk past as in a quiet procession. You draft one letter, and the second writes itself. You refrain from an instant reply and save yourself 3 hours of repair. You choose the one call that renders 10 others unnecessary. Rhythm replaces rush. The body reveals intelligence as if obeying a kinder conductor. Breath deepens. Shoulders let go. And the work does not consume you, because it is being done through you. Make no fairy tale of this. The phone will still ring. The child will still cry. There will be deadlines, weather, and traffic. But you will not be at war with what happens. One with God is a majority. Standing in that majority, you will find that guidance attends you, timing favors you, protection enfolds you, and the next right thing becomes the only thing, until the day ceases to be an adversary and proves itself a servant of grace. Keep this ear open. Let the secret governance proceed. Let us make this so practical that you cannot fail. 2 minutes, wherever you are. Sit if you can, stand if you must. Place both feet upon the floor if seated, or feel the soles in the shoes if standing. Let the hands rest, open in the lap or easy at your sides. Soften the eyes, open or closed but unstraining. If open, let the gaze be gentle, unfixed. Unclench the jaw. Let the tongue rest in the mouth. Allow the shoulders to fall as if a small weight unhooked their armor. Let the breath be as it is. Do not make it spiritual. Do not lengthen it. Do not measure it. Natural. Unmanaged. Now, turn. Keep the inner ear open, not for words that you invent, but for the silence that is already speaking. Not asking for outcomes, but yielding to presence. Not sending thoughts outward to fetch help, but letting awareness sink inward to find help that is here. If thoughts come, let them pass as leaves in a slow stream. You need not push them. You need not collect them. You are not thinking God. You are consenting to God. If it helps you to open the inner door, you may, lightly, once or twice, let a phrase rise and fall like a feather. Thy grace is sufficient. Or, the kingdom is within. Speak it inwardly, not as a plea, but as a recognition. Then lay even that down and listen. Father within, I listen. Keep this ear open. 10 seconds, 20, 30. No outlining, no bargaining. Not by might, not by mental power, but by thy spirit. Let that be the whole prayer. Consent. You may notice the tiny, almost imperceptible signs by which you know you have turned. The forehead releases. The breath deepens of itself. The pressure behind the eyes eases. A quietness takes the edges off the room. Do not reach for more. Do not strain for proof. One with God is a majority. The majority does not shout. It governs in stillness. Rest there. If an anxious picture pushes forward, do not push back. Turn again. Presence first, and only then proceeding. Now, gently, we re-enter movement without losing the thread. Do not spring. Do not snap the book of silence shut. Lift the gaze as you would lift a sleeping child. Let the hands resume their duty while the heart keeps its sanctuary. Rise if you were seated, but carry the atmosphere with you as you would carry a fragrance on your coat. Walk to the next task as one who abides. If you must speak, let words come out of the hush, not over it. If you must decide, let the decision appear in the cleared space, not be forced into it. This is the whole of it, done sincerely for 2 minutes. not to manipulate the day, but to be available to the one who governs it. Repeat this in the doorway before a meeting, at the kitchen sink, in a parked car, standing in a corridor, once at the threshold of the office and once at the threshold of sleep. Each time, a brief turning within reestablishes contact with presence, and the day, like iron to a hidden magnet, reorganizes around that contact. Keep this ear open and let grace do the work. Stability has a price, and it is not strain, it is constancy. The mind is a creature of habit, and so is attention. If it has been trained to rush to the rim, do not scold it. Retrain it. Conscious oneness becomes steady as any skill becomes steady, by return, by repetition, by living in it often enough that it ceases to be an event and becomes your atmosphere. Not to talk yourself into God, but to keep this ear open until listening is your natural posture. Not to collect realizations as souvenirs, but to abide. Therefore, set your day as a simple rule, not as a burden. On waking, before the feet touch the floor, 2 to 4 minutes. Father within, I listen. Mid-morning, between tasks or at the corridor's end, 2 minutes, just enough to lay down the self-appointed author and consent to be carried. At noon, before you eat, 2 to 4 minutes that consecrate the afternoon without a plan. Mid-afternoon, when attention frays and the will begins to push. 2 minutes to exchange might for spirit. Before dinner, at the sink, at the stove, 2 minutes that soften the house and bless the table. And before sleep, at the threshold of night, 2 to 4 minutes that release the day back to the one who governed it. 6 touchstones, brief and true. Add nothing heavy, remove nothing essential. Presence first, and only then proceeding. Between these anchors, let there be micro-returns, 10 seconds that change the next 10 minutes. Before you open an email, pause and listen. Before you answer the phone, pause and listen. Before a meeting begins, before the car moves, before you enter a store, before you lift a fork, before you reply to a child or a spouse. 10 seconds. No words necessary, only consent. These are not rituals, these are turnings. You are not adding religion to your day, you are removing interference from grace. The mind will argue, there is no time. Answer it quietly. There is no time like the now of presence. 10 seconds does not take time. It gives time its order. 2 minutes do not delay your work. They displace the wasted hours of pushing the wrong cart up the wrong hill. You are not pausing the day. You are changing its government. Not by might, not by mental power, but by my spirit. Keep it simple. Do not make a ceremony of it. Make a life of it. No special chair is required. No posture except inner yielding. No vocabulary, but listening. If you forget, do not condemn yourself. Turn the moment you remember. If you are interrupted, do not resent. Turn within the interruption. 12 to 20 times a day, brief and sincere, until the shift is not an emergency exit, but your native door. Then the day changes, not occasionally, but consistently. Because the inward movement is no longer rare. It is the way you breathe. One with God is a majority, and the majority, held often, becomes stability. Keep this ear open. Repeat the turning. Let grace make a habit of you. Before we add anything more, we must lay some things down. The most stubborn interference is not noise from the street. It is the subtle form of self-treatment that tries to make God a tool. We turn within, and, before the silence has spoken, the mind is already saying, "Let this call go my way. Let the money come by Friday. Let the result match my outline." That is not yielding. That is using. Not presence as law unto itself, but presence as lever. Not worship in spirit and in truth, but bargaining with an idol of our own fear. Stop it. Not to scold, but to free you. Not to shame, but to let you slip the harness. The Father within, He doeth the works. Our part is not to make that Father work. Our part is to get out of His way. You will notice the strain of it. Phrases multiplied to convince the sky. Affirmations stacked like sandbags against imagined flood. Visualizations rehearsed until the soul is weary. Friends, talking about God will not produce the fruits of God, and talking at God will not move omnipresence. Prayer is not performance. Prayer is recognition. Not pleading for supply, but resting in the sufficiency already present as the life of you. Not commanding healings, but consenting to the wholeness that is the nature of one mind. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. If that is truth, then stop describing the need and start abiding the presence. Another interference is the addiction to outward reassurance. We run from teacher to teacher, book to recording, post to post, asking for a hand on the head to certify us. There is value in teaching, there is fellowship in the word shared, but only if it sends you into the secret place. Make your contact with the infinite invisible. The Christ in you is the teacher of teachers. Call it Emmanuel, call it Tao, it is the same one. Sit down in your own chair, stand still in your own kitchen, pause in your own corridor, and let the inner threshold be sufficient. If, after a talk or a page, you do not find yourself in silence, set it down and be still. Let content become contact, or it is only another golden distraction. We must also cease the performance of prayer as barter. I kept my 6 periods, I did my 2 minutes, where is my demonstration? That is accounting, not communion. These brief turnings are not coins to buy outcomes. They are doorways to reality. Enter and be. If a word rises, let it be a word of acknowledgement. The kingdom is within, not a demand for signs. The moment you begin to measure or time to qualify for results, you have returned to might and mental power. Lay it down. Live by grace without taking thought. Then there is the compulsive narration, the inner lawyer forever explaining, justifying, predicting. Leave that court. Before speech, silence. Before reply, one breath of listening. Before the email, one inward nod that says, "Father within, I listen." Keep this ear open. You will find that what you need to say is less than what you planned, and what you leave unsaid becomes the shield of wisdom about you. Here is a gentle test by which you may know. If you feel tight, you are pushing. If you feel inwardly quiet, you are yielding. Tight jaw, high breath, urgent eyes, stop. 2 minutes if you can, 10 seconds if you cannot. Drop the outline. Acknowledge the presence. Not fighting error, but dropping it. Not making grace work, but yielding until grace is what is working. One with God is a majority. Let that majority take the field. Keep this ear open. Let the Christ perform all things for you. Presence is not for the meditation chair. It is for the corridor, the conference, the kitchen table, the roadside where the tire is flat and a child is crying. It is the standpoint from which we meet every person and every event. If you keep this as theory, the day will remain a contest of temperaments and schedules. If you make your contact and carry it into contact with others, you will discover that relationship is not two wills negotiating terms. It is one presence finding utterance as wisdom, patience, and clarity. Here is the inner posture in real time. Before you answer, pause. Before you reply, breathe once down into the belly. Feel the feet. Yes, the literal weight of you on floor or shoe. Let the belly soften. Let the shoulders release what they reach to grab. Say nothing for a heartbeat, and keep this ear open. Father within, I listen. Do not search for cleverness. Allow the response to rise from the quieter depth. The words that come from that level come without edge. Even when they are firm, they are unforced. Your tone will tell you when you have turned. If you hear yourself speed up, if you feel the jaw set, if you sense the inner flinch, stop. Reseat awareness in the heart of stillness, and let the speech come out of that seat. Reframe the meeting itself. Not my will versus theirs, not my plan contending with your need, but one mind knowing itself where we appear to stand. In that one mind, there is no dispute for you to win and no defeat for them to suffer. There is only recognition. Behold the other as more than their history and your memory. Call him brother in the silence before you call him by his name. Acknowledge within the same life, the same law, the same love that beats your heart, beating his. From there, you will find that counsel takes on mercy, correction takes on gentleness, and clarity does not require conquest. In conflict, we do not defeat another. We drop the fight and meet the moment from grace. You may be accused unjustly. You may be met with heat. Your first act is not to defend, but to descend to the secret place. There, the inner weather calms, and to that calm, the outer atmosphere must respond. Sometimes the right word is given, and it is soft enough to disarm without a blade. Sometimes the right act is silence, and the silence speaks more powerfully than rebuttal. Sometimes the right response is a clear no, but it is a no without venom, a boundary drawn by presence itself. Not retaliation, but revelation. Not winning, but witnessing the one presence that leaves neither party outside its love. Bring this into work. Action without strain means presence first, then priorities present themselves. Before you open the inbox, one breath of listening. Before you schedule, 2 minutes at the inner seat. Out of that order, you will see which task dissolves 10 others, which call belongs to tomorrow, which meeting needs fewer words and more quiet. Timing ceases to be a gamble. It becomes guidance. Speech loses its padding. It arrives lean and sufficient. You will discover that you accomplish without hurry, decide without dread, and that excellence appears as a byproduct of grace rather than the prize of pressure. Extend it to every errand and exchange. At the register, let the eyes soften and the heart bless. On the road, consent to be carried instead of carving a lane with will. With your child, kneel inside before you kneel outside. Listen for the word that builds rather than the word that merely corrects. With your own body, answer its fatigue not with scorn, but with sanctuary. In all of this, the same law holds. Presence first, and only then proceeding. Keep this ear open in the midst of the spoken world. I live, yet not I. The Christ life lives as me, as you, as the meeting itself. And where that is the standpoint, harmony ceases to be a hope and becomes the way the day speaks. Keep it secret, keep it sacred, keep it daily. What has awakened in you is not a badge to polish, not an argument to win, not a story to enlarge the self. It is a pearl of great price. Guard it in the silence in which it was given. Speak of it only when love compels, and even then with a light hand. For the infinite invisible works best where there is no exhibition. Do not make an identity out of your turning. Let it be the identity of the Christ revealing itself as you. The kingdom of God is within you. Keep the door half closed and the lamp trimmed. Choose constancy over drama. The soul matures by quiet returns, not by fireworks. You will know the fruit not by applause, but by less fear, fewer compulsions, a softening of urgency, a rightness in timing you cannot account for. You will see impulses of kindness arise where sharpness used to shout. You will find a wise no that needs no anger to stand. You will apologize without humiliation and correct without superiority. All of this without explanation. The Father within, He doeth the works. Not by might, not by mental power, but by my Spirit. One with God is a majority, and the majority does not need to prove itself. Let the single takeaway be engraved on your heart. One inward movement, turning from personal striving to the felt presence within, opens the channel of grace. Repeating that movement throughout the day transforms how you meet every circumstance. Presence first, and only then proceeding. Keep this ear open. Make your contact with the infinite invisible, and let that contact govern speech, action, and rest. 2 minutes if you can, 10 seconds if you cannot, 12 to 20 times a day. Brief, sincere, unstrained. That is all, and that is everything. Here is your charge. Dwell in the secret place of the Most High by simple faithfulness. Do not count realizations, live them. Do not display results, let harmony speak for itself. Reduce the needless clamors that crowd the inner door. Refuse the temptation to report your progress or to borrow authority from names and claims. Worship in spirit and in truth. And when you fall into hurry, as we all do, turn gently without scolding and begin again. Keep the practice so ordinary that it becomes the atmosphere of your living, and so sacred that you owe it no performance. Now we will not end with more words, for talking about God will not produce the fruits of God. Let us be still together for a moment. Father within, we listen. We take no thought. We offer no outline. We consent. In this hush, let grace seal what grace has begun. Let the presence be the conclusion. Go in quietness. Carry this fragrance into your corridors and kitchens, into your meetings and roads. Live by grace without taking thought. Keep it secret. Keep it sacred. Keep it daily. Bless you.